What's up, fellas? It's Fari. Let's get it. Like, comment, and subscribe only if you fuck with it. And be sure to follow me on Instagram at organic.fari. Today's video is about unlocking the three levels of consciousness and transforming your life. Literally. So, the truth is, your dream life already exists, bro. The only reason you're not seeing it in your 3D reality is because you're living in the wrong state of awareness. You're living in the wrong state of being. You are living through the lens of the wrong consciousness. If you were viewing life through the lens of the proper consciousness, you would be seeing the things that you would want to see in this 3D reality. You would also be feeling the things that you want to feel within this 3D reality. Because at some point you will understand everything is energy. And talking about awareness and consciousness, most people are, it's sad to say, stuck in the lowest level of consciousness, which is survival. Most men are stuck in this state of being, and it hinders them in every single area of their life. And the sad part is that they're unaware. They're unaware that they're operating as their lowest selves. And they're unaware that they have higher consciousness, a higher level of awareness available to them at their fingertips. But I know you aren't one of them, because if you were, you wouldn't be on this video. My guess is you've become aware that you're operating at your lowest consciousness and you yearn for more. This is the right video for you, brother. So in today's video, what I'm going to be talking about or going over are the three levels of consciousness every single man needs to understand. The three levels of consciousness are survival, service, and creation. Understanding the difference between all of these levels of consciousness and also learning how and when to apply them in your own life will transform your life. By the end of this video, that is the goal, brother. Transformation. Before we get into the actual different types of consciousness or the different levels, first we have to define what is consciousness. Before I give you the answer, take some time to sit back and think about this answer yourself. What is consciousness? This is the main question at hand right now. So, in order to truly understand what consciousness is, there are a few other terms and concepts that we need to define just to make sure that we're on the same level. Make sure we're looking at this thing the same. So, the first thing I want you guys to understand is that every single thing in this world is energy. Every single thing in this world is energy, from physical things to your thoughts. And we'll dive deeper into this, but I just want you to understand that every single thing in this world is energy. And when we actually look at energy or define energy, we're going to define it as infinite possibilities. I could go very deep into that right there, but let's just pause right here. And I want you to accept this. Before we move on in this video, accept that everything is energy. If you don't believe this, you're probably in the wrong place. This shouldn't be a foreign idea to you. You should already have some sort of understanding when it comes to this. The next thing we're going to define is matter. Matter is also energy. Matter is simply the formation of atoms, and atoms are a form of energy. The simplest way to put this, or an easy way to view matter, is atoms are what happens when energy takes its first step into form, and matter is its final form. So when we're looking at matter, a simple way to look at this is what happens when energy takes its first step into form. In between these two, in between energy and matter, are atoms. So now what we want to do is we want to define thoughts. We're getting deep here, brother. Hope you're taking notes. So when we're looking at thoughts, thoughts are spontaneous patterns of energy that happen in your brain. So they happen within your subconscious. And thoughts, we don't own our thoughts. You have to think of yourself as a radio, and your brain is basically a receiver, walkie talkie, however you want to put it. And thoughts are presented to you as spontaneous patterns of energy. Now, where you come in play is when we define thinking. So he said these are patterns of energy. And now you come into play once you get to adding judgment and you start adding emotion into your thoughts, which turn into thinking. So now you are consciously participating in this game. And when you add meaning plus emotions, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but when you add meaning plus emotions, you produce chemical plus electrical signals in your body. So it's still energy. That's the point of me laying that part out for you right there. And you can actually look this up. Your thoughts and your thinking are actually patterns of energy, and they're measured by brainwaves. Go look it up, brother. This is real. Everything is energy. That's what I'm trying to explain to you right now. And now, an example of your thinking causing chemical reactions to happen. Um, you probably already know this, but negative thinking or survivalistic or animalistic thinking leads to adrenaline and cortisol within the body. Now, if we look at the opposite end of it, positive thoughts or high vibration, high frequency thoughts are going to cause things like oxytocin and everybody's favorite word, dopamine, to be produced. So now, one of the last things I want to define before I actually go into what consciousness itself is I want to define what emotions are. Emotions are when your energy, or just to simply put it, emotions are energy in motion. So if you see here, energy, infinite possibilities in between or after that, you have atoms. If we're going to look at it on the micro level, atoms form matter. So matter is what happens when energy takes its first step into form. Another definition is thoughts, which are patterns of energy. They're random, they're spontaneous, they happen within the subconscious. And then your thinking is when you add in your consciousness or your conscious judgment and observation to your thoughts. And this thinking produces feelings. It produces actual chemical reactions within your body, which then create a certain feeling within your body. And that certain feeling is an emotion. So, anger, fear, joy, pain, sadness, appreciation, gratefulness, thankfulness. Even what I want you to understand, the reason why I'm breaking it down like this is I really want you to understand that every single thing on this planet, every single thing within this universe is energy, brother, whether it exists right now in the 3D world or not. So, just a quick pause in the video. I definitely had some minor technical difficulties. Recorded about 10 minutes of this video yesterday, and I did not have the microphone on like a fucking lame. But guess what I did? I got up and said, let's re record and continue the show. So, let's go. So, now when we actually take a look at what consciousness is and we put a definition to it, the most simple definition I can use for what consciousness is that consciousness is the purest form of energy that exists in this universe. Without consciousness, nothing exists because in order for something to exist, it must be observed. And the observer within this entire universe is consciousness. So, to give you a more practical definition of consciousness, consciousness is the awareness that is in charge of observing all of the things that we talked about. So, it observes thoughts, thinking, and it observes your emotions. These are things that we've already talked about, but as you can see here, it also is in charge of observing sensations in your physical or external environment. You are already familiar with that part already, though. So, just to repeat myself or dumb it down even more, consciousness is simply your level of awareness. It's your level of observation. It's your level of perception. And now that you understand consciousness is just your level of awareness, observation, and perception, you begin to realize that there are different frequencies or different lenses available to you that you can view the world through. And within this realization, you also realize that you have not been operating at your highest potential at all, brother. A lot of you are operating strictly in survival mode, and we're still going to go over all of the three levels of consciousness every man needs to understand. And like I said, once you understand these things and you actually apply it to your life at the right time and in the right way, you will transform your life, brother. Literally, we just went through and broke down how energy turns into matter. And we also just broke down how every single thing in this world is energy, including your thoughts. It all starts with your thoughts and your thinking, brother. And the thing is, all of these things influence each other. If you're going to break out of mental hell, you have to understand this next concept I'm going to bring up. And that next concept is the thought, thinking, and emotion loop. This is something that can be good, but most of the time, the way this loop has been cycling or showing up in your life has been in negative ways. It's keeping you in stress, it's keeping you in survival mode. The loop is simply you becoming aware of your thoughts, you starting to get in touch with the ultimate stream of consciousness that exists, because remember, your thoughts are not your own. They're spontaneous patterns of energy. So when these thoughts pop up, now your consciousness observes that. Depending on your level of consciousness, you'll observe it in a certain way, or you'll perceive it in a different way, which will cause you to think in a certain way. Basically, your thoughts influence your thinking, and then your thinking influences your emotions. But it doesn't stop there, because your emotions actually circle back around and they start to influence your subconscious. They start to influence your thoughts. So now you can see how it's very easy to get stuck in a very negative cycle. However, this can be used for good as well. And the reason that this happens is because during this entire sequence, different electrical and chemical signals are being fired within your body. which means your neurological networks are firing and hardwiring together. So now, when you're stressed out and you produce adrenaline and cortisol, your body literally becomes addicted to those chemicals. But what if you could switch it around and start feeling emotions and start thinking thoughts that were more beneficial to you? It's possible, brother. And that's why we're talking about consciousness, because when you switch your consciousness, you switch your level of perception. Consciousness has different levels of frequencies, and this is something that a lot of people are familiar with. So it is your job to tune in and align yourself with the proper frequency so that you can begin to view the world through the proper lens. Simply put, consciousness are glasses. If you put on your survival glasses, you're going to look at the world through a survival lens. If you put on your service glasses, you're going to look at the world through a service lens. If you put on your creation glasses, you're going to view the world through a creation or a creative lens. So if you want to change your life, change the frequency or the lens that you view life through. Okay, so the first level of consciousness that you need to be aware of, and this is the consciousness that I'd say 7 out of 10, 70, it's a 70% chance that this is the frequency that you are operating from right now within your life. And that is the consciousness of survival. And we're going to go red with this one. So when you operate from this consciousness of survival, you're operating from your most primal state of being. You're an animal at this point, brother. All you're worried about is sex, money, and validation, or and safety. So all you're worried about is sex, money, and safety. It definitely seems basic, but what you need to understand is that living within this consciousness means that you're living from your lowest energy centers. And when you're living from your lowest energy centers, you're not in a state of creation. You're not in a state of service. You're literally in a state of survival. And that's a stressful situation. That is the biggest reason why you do not want to be living from the lens of survival, or looking at the world through a lens that has you looking at every situation, analyzing every single situation. Oh, how can I survive? That's how you're thinking. That's how your body is thinking. You're literally in fight or flight. You're in fight or flight mode when you're in this state of being. So you're feeling fear, guilt, shame. You're abusing sex, drugs. I hope none of y'all niggas is doing hard drugs. I won't get too much on you for smoking weed, but if you're doing hard drugs, brother, cut it out. Literally. You're also abusing liquor. You also feel unsafe. You get the point. No, no. You don't want to be in this state of being, brother. This is the lowest state of being that you can be in. And don't get me wrong, you can see and you will see some success from this level of consciousness. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely a place and time for this. But if you're constantly in fight or flight mode, if you're constantly in fight or flight mode, eventually your body will freeze. Imagine being chased by a lion for 30 years straight. That's essentially what you're putting your body through. And what people don't realize is that not only does stress affect you mentally, dis-ease, so when you're not at ease, causes disease. So you will literally start to have ailments and become physically sick because you're under so much stress, brother. It's that serious. It gets that deep. Get out of survival mode. That is the point of this video. If you take nothing else from this video, the one thing that I want to spark, the one idea in your brain that I want you to spark is get out of survival mode, brother. And obviously, it's easier said than done. We're human beings having a human experience. And it's natural for you to be in your survival mode, especially with how society and the world is set up right now, brother. I get it. It's a rough life, but there's no fucking excuses. Get out of survival mode now. Now, brother. Now. Also, when you're in this state of being, you're not thinking about service, you're not thinking about creation, you're only thinking about survival. So you're naturally going to have low energy levels. You're not creating anything, you're not inspired, you're literally draining yourself. So, fellas, this is the guy that you possibly are right now, or you may slip back into being this guy at times, but you want to try your best to not be this person right here. So, that's his energy field. And like I said, he's feeling fear, guilt, and shame. You can add whatever negative feelings you want to add right there, but essentially, that is what your survival consciousness is. You're literally operating from your lower energy centers. So, whenever you're operating within your survival consciousness, and that's the awareness or the level of observation that you're approaching the world with, your mind is constantly going to be on sex, money, and safety. So you may be someone that's overly sex, that's having too much sex, and hey, I'm not here to judge anybody. Do your thing, brother. But understand, another way to look at it is you're constantly looking for the validation or looking for validation from women, brother. Cut it out. Cut it out. You're living from your lowest energy center. You may be going through a rough time in life. You know, shit, the economy isn't the greatest. There's not too many jobs out here. If you're not skilled, if you don't have a degree in STEM, you're pretty much, I get it, brother, but you can't live from a place of lack. You're living in survival. When you're living in survival, you're constantly producing adrenaline plus cortisol. And it's not to say that these things are necessarily bad for you, but prolonged exposure to these things is definitely bad for you. And like I said earlier, it's going to cause disease, bro. If you're already struggling with certain sicknesses in your life, if you're up there in age or if you're a little bit younger, but you're, bro, this is it, bro. It starts with your energy, your level of awareness, where you observe the world from, and the energy that you emit and attract to yourself is bare survival, bro. It's fuckery, bro. It's the lowest form of energy. So now the second level of consciousness that every man needs to be aware about, and if you understand it, you'll be able to transform your life. This level of consciousness is service. So for service, we're going to use blue, and we'll draw our little guy out from now. When you're in this state, you feel things like community. You want to provide value. And the last one is going to be giving. So you're literally going to be in a mode of service, brother. And whenever you're in this level of consciousness, this level of awareness, this level of observation, when you're in service mode, you go from taking, your focus in life goes from taking and what you can receive from the world to giving. This is where you begin to give your gifts to the world. So whenever you come out of survival and your basic needs are met in your physical reality, and or even if they aren't met in your physical reality, but you've been able to take control of your mind and raise your vibrations, raise your frequencies to something higher than the lower energy centers that we just talked about a couple minutes ago, you'll begin to give your gifts to the world. And if you spend any time with me in person, you've heard me say this a lot for years. And if you plan to stick around on this channel, you'll hear me say this a lot, brother. Because in my opinion, this is the point of life, to be the best version of yourself and to give your gifts to the world. And you have to give your gifts to the world fully. There's no holding back. There's no holding back. The times that I've made the most progress in my life or seen the most success is when I was out of survival mode, brother. When I was in service mode, or either the next mode that we're going to talk about, because they're connected, service and creation. However, let's strictly talk about service right now. When you're in this mode, for instance, when I was doing sales, I was working sales jobs. It's a whole story for another day, brother. But the times that I had my best sales months, the best sales year I had, I wasn't attached to the money. I wasn't attached to the outcome. I wasn't attached to closing the deal. I was acting out of service, brother. The product that I was selling, I truly believed in, and I thought that I was actually helping people out, and I wanted to help as many people as possible. That's what my monthly goal was. That's what my daily objective was every single day that I got up. It wasn't, oh, how much money can I make today? I knew the money was going to come, brother. Because when you start to go into higher levels of consciousness, you understand that everything that's for you already exists. Remember, we said energy is an infinite number of possibilities. And within that infinite number of possibilities exists the future, or the life that you want to live, or that you think you want to live, or the life that you actually desire, brother. So being well off financially is a part of that identity. That identity wasn't chasing money, grinding, trying to get money. That guy was helping as many people as he could, and because of that, the world blessed him. However, he was doing it when you're in the state of service. Actually, this is what separates service and creation. When you're in service, because I found myself in this state of being service, brother. But I'm human, and I fell back down into survival mode, and I couldn't understand why. I was in service mode, and you may be in service mode right now. You may be making 75, 80, 90, 100, $120,000 a year. You may be in sales like I was, brother. Straight commission sales, y'all know how that go. So from the outside looking in, life seems like, or life looks good. On paper, your life is going pretty well, but deep down inside you still feel some lack, brother. That survival consciousness and that survival awareness and that survival observation is creeping back up on you. And you want to know why? I'm going to tell you right now. It took me a couple years to understand this, brother. I remember being in service mode, fully in service mode, brother. Life's going well. I got the girl on my bro. I had a bad, thick Dominican, and like Dr. Umar says, if she cook, if she clean, and can she cook, can she clean, and can she keep a damn mouth shut? She did it all, brother. I attracted that by being a man in service, and when I stopped being a man of service, I lost it all, brother. I'll keep it a stack with you, brother. I'm not here to lie to you at all, bro. And I'm not understanding this until now. But the reason why I felt lost while at this level of awareness, why I was not able to break through and reach the level of consciousness and awareness that is creation, or at least I feel like I've reached there before, but at least I haven't been able to sustain that level of consciousness, is because, yes, I was giving my gifts to the world. I was giving my gifts to the world, brother, like I said, but I was attached to outcomes. And transactional meaning, I provide value. This is basically what I'm saying to myself at the time, subconsciously. I wasn't saying it consciously. but I provide value. So because I provide value, I get money, I get women, and I get validation. And if you notice these three things, money, women, and validation, they are very similar to survival. So in a way, I was still operating from a level of consciousness that was still attached to survival. Brother, I hope you're understanding this. I didn't make this long ass video just to get up here and babble. This is from years of experience and years of research. I've read tons of books. I've read tons of articles. I've watched tons of YouTube videos. I've watched tons of podcasts, brother. But one thing I will tell you is the best teacher, the absolute best teacher is life. Either pick this information up now and take it serious or allow life to do you just how it did me. Raise you up and then tear you down. Is that what you want for yourself, brother? I don't think so. I don't think that's what you want for yourself, brother, at all. So now if we look at this, so we're in the service state of being right now. So even though we're in the service state of being or operating from the service consciousness, we've stopped taking from the world and we've started giving. We begin to give our gifts to the world fully. But the bad thing is that we're still attached to outcomes. And that's bad because whenever you're attached to outcomes, you're still living a transactional lifestyle centered around money, woman, and validation, which is still survival, which is what we're trying to escape. So now you may ask yourself, well, what's the next level of consciousness? The next level of consciousness is going to be creation. And this is what we should all be striving for, brother. This is the third and most important level of consciousness. So now let's draw this guy out. So this guy is operating from abundance, freedom. He's operating from his highest consciousness slash highest state of being. And this one is simple, brother. This is very similar to service, but the biggest difference is now you actually become, you know how you're up here, you're attached to outcomes. If you come down here, you become unattached. And this is exactly what you want, brother. You want to be unattached to outcomes while still giving your gifts to the world. So you still want to give your gifts to the world. And when you do this, brother, this is when you become a co creator. This is when you've earned the ability to transform your life. And that's the goal, brother. That is the goal. It's not to be the richest. It's not to have the most women. It's not to have the most success. It's not to get the most validation. I don't give a fuck about any form of validation from the world. What I care about is raising my vibration and my frequency to look like this guy right here. I want to be operating from my highest state of being, brother. I want to feel feelings of freedom. I want to feel true abundance. You can even throw the words that you guys like in there, like manifest. Actually, I'm going to cross this out. There's no need to manifest when you're in a state of creation. Once you're co creating, you and God become the ultimate team. Almost, y'all definitely better than MJ and Michael. You're not beating this team, brother. When it's me and God, of when it's me and God versus you fuck niggas, I know who's winning, brother. There's no doubt in my mind who's winning. Even though it's not a competition. That's me thinking from a survival consciousness. But when you're co-creating, brother, there's not even a need to manifest. There's no need to become anything. There's not even a need to become. There's no need. Because when you're in a state of creation, you are. And that's what you need to understand. So once you are able to actually understand these different levels of consciousness and you're able to tap into the creation level of awareness, you'll begin to be the things that you want. You'll begin to be the love. You'll begin to validate yourself. You'll begin to feel free and you'll literally be in awe at life. Can you feel those elevated emotions, brother? I hope you can. This is no hocus pocus shit. I just showed you that all of this stems from it stems from energy. And we just said energy, our emotions is energy in motion. And I want to tell you something. If you ever noticed, whenever you're chasing a goal, it's never really that actual thing that you want. It's typically the feeling or the experience associated with it. So why not be the experience? Why not be that emotion? Why not already be that yourself so those outside experiences can associate themselves with you? You have to align with that. Remember, that version of your life that you really want already exists, brother. It's your job to tune yourself into the right frequency, the right level of awareness, the right level of observation, the right level of consciousness, so that you can align with that. And so you can experience it in your 3D reality, so you can turn energy into matter. So now what I'll do just to close everything out is I will just simplify everything for you. So you have three levels of consciousness. You have survival, you have service, and then you have creation. So now the ultimate visualization of this is going to be, this is a little earth. Just pretend this is a little earth. I know my drawing skills are not the best. I actually used to be an artist on the low. I ain't even gonna hold you, but those days are long gone, as you can see. But here goes my little earth, right? So now when you're looking at these different levels of consciousness, we're just gonna take service, or not service, we're just going to take creation and survival. So now you have these two people right here. Remember, they have their energy fields. This guy down here is in survival, and then this guy up here is in creation. Now, because this is their vibration or their frequency, remember, this is the lens at which they see the world, or this is the lens through which they see the world. So the person that's operating in survival, the person that's operating in survival, they're going to see the world from survival, fear based, stress based. And the person looking at the world from a lens of creation is going to look at the world in abundance. And that is why they can give their gifts to the world fully, unattached to the outcome. They're giving their gifts for the love of giving their gifts. They're not giving their gifts for something in return, which is a big mistake a lot of successful men make when they're in the second level of consciousness, which is service. You can see a lot of success operating within the first two, but if you want to actually experience the life that you dream of and that you think of and that you talk to yourself of and that you lay in the bed every night and you literally visualize and dream of, you have to understand these things, brother. You have to. And that is the end of the video, my brother. The main point is to get to this right here. You want to get to a vibration of creation and you want to try to stay there, bro. That's the ultimate goal in this life. Do I think it's possible for every single man? No, I don't. But who am I to judge? I'm on this journey just like you are, brother. And if you have any other questions, if there's anything you want to correct me on, if there's anything you want me to go deeper in, if you need more clarification on something, DM me on Instagram at organic.fari. And you know, guys, I just have a lot of videos coming out soon. There's a lot of ideas that I want to put out there. I want to come out here with topics like this that are very near and dear to me, true to my identity. These are things that I talk about on a day-to-day basis with my friends and my family and the women in my life. And now I'm bringing it to you guys, and I hope we can talk together and we can learn together, guys. But if you want to work with me one-on-one, go ahead down below the video. There's a link to book a call with me. Answer a couple questions, guys. The call is free. Let's get on. I want to hear what you guys have to say. We'll see if you're a good fit. If you're not a good fit right now, it's okay. Maybe in the future. But definitely reach out, guys. But that's the video for today. I'm out.